Welcome to episode 293 of the Preseason Summary Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harmon, joined live in the Vault Studio on the beautiful campus of Grace College and Grace Theological Seminary by my good friend, my colleague, my co-host, and the man who injured himself playing golf last week.
Yep.
John Scott Sloat.
Swung too hard throughout the back.
Yeah. Well, it's good to follow up because last week we had to record, last week's episode we recorded in advance.
Yes.
Because you had the
Because I had the golf outing.
Yes.
So I played 3 holes. I injured it on the 3rd hole.
And you were done.
3rd of 36.
Yeah. And you were done.
I was done. Yep.
Okay.
I tried to play another hole, and I just couldn't.
Okay. I mean, you looked fine walking in the building today, so it must be somewhat recovered.
Yeah, still a lot of ice. So I keep an ice pack in the office in the freezer and ice pretty regularly. And a couple visits to the chiropractor, and, you know, the more you move, the better it is.
Yes.
And, so that's where we're at.
So do we need to take like a halftime break
We
during
may.
during this episode?
If we could turn this table into a standing desk where we could stand and record, that'd be ultimate.
Yeah, I mean, we could probably find some stuff to prop the microphones up if you wanted to stand and talk.
Might be worth it.
Yeah. Well, if you would like to contact the show and give John either some golf tips or some tips on how not to throw out his back, you can reach us on Twitter at VNSPod. You can email the show, variousandsundarypodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube, and we would love for you to leave a 5-star rating on whatever platform you access the show. All right, John, let's jump into our sports segment here. This past weekend was the first weekend of preseason NFL games, which you don't tend to learn a ton at this point. They've so shortened the preseason now. It's down to 3 games. And starters typically play a series or 2 at this stage.
Yeah.
Just out of
Did you watch any preseason football?
I did a little bit, yeah.
I watched 0 preseason football.
I mean, I had it on as background noise while I was reading or doing other stuff. So, you know, watch intently, no. But, you know, I've got my eye out for how, you know, former Ohio State guys are doing. And so let's start there. Tell me your thoughts on Justin Fields. Surely you at least followed Jets Twitter.
Yes.
And I saw he had a rushing touchdown.
There was a great play by, I think, our 3rd-string running back. So Justin ran it in from like the 20.
Yeah.
So it was a decent-sized run. But this running back ran to the corner of the end zone with his hands in the air like he's about to catch it and drew two defenders with him that cleared the way. It was a pretty high IQ play.
Yeah.
But I thought Justin was 3 for 4. The offense looked like it had purpose. The offense looked like it had a strategy.
Yeah.
Which did not appear last year or the year before.
Yeah.
So I think any semblance of a strategy other than hope is a good offense for the Jets this year.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, I saw the touchdown run highlight by Justin Fields, and that's about it for that game.
Offensive line looked really good for the Jets.
Okay.
Defense looked good. Seemed like there was a good scheme in place, but again, it's hard to tell anything in the preseason. You're just hoping nobody gets injured, really.
Well, and yeah, defenses tend to play very vanilla because they don't want to show a lot. And, you know, the ones play a series or 2 typically, and that's about it. And then so I think that makes it even difficult to evaluate non-starting quarterbacks.
Yes.
You know, they get in there and you're like, well, that's against the 2nd or 3rd team defense. So, yeah, they might have looked good, but that's not against starters. So I don't know how to evaluate that.
Yeah. But it's good to see football back on.
It is. It is.
People are running around hitting each other.
Yeah. Legally.
legally
within the confines of a game. Yes,
most of the time. Yeah,
yeah. I was excited to see, and this is where I will feel torn because I hate the Patriots, but they're coached by Mike Vrabel,
Ohio State
guy, and they drafted Travion Henderson, who his first touch took the kickoff back 100 yards for a touchdown, and just looked great. Like he looked like he had the burst.
Yeah.
And when he's got that,
sometimes guys come from college and don't seem like they belong.
Yeah.
You know,
he immediately looked like he belonged.
Well, that's good for him, bad for everybody else, right? But yeah, some guys just like, oh, you're slower than I imagined from the college ranks, or I remember seeing Adrian Peterson run at Minnesota for the first time. Like, oh, at Oklahoma,
he was a monster.
You were a monster, but you're almost equally a monster at Minnesota.
Yeah.
And I remember it was just like, oh my goodness, this is gonna be bad for everybody else for a long, long time.
Yes. And I also I caught a good chunk of the Colts preseason game, and they drafted a Buckeye named J.T. Tuimoloau. And he's a defensive end. He'll be kind of a hybrid in the NFL. Defensive end, could play a little bit of linebacker if they wanted him to.
Like a 3-4 sort of outside linebacker?
Yeah, probably. But he looked really good. Was in the backfield constantly, pressuring the quarterback, all that kind of stuff. So, it's fun to see those guys, do well. But again, what do you learn from this point? Everyone is just trying to get the starters through the preseason without getting hurt.
Yeah, I'll say this for the Jets. We learned that Aaron Glenn, the new coach, will hold players accountable. So one of the frustrations with the previous administration or regime, depending on how you view them, was that there was this character named Michael Clemens on the team who is still on the team.
Okay.
And he just likes to get out on the field and fight people. And virtually every game he was fighting with somebody.
So he's like a hockey enforcer.
Kind of, except he's bad at football, And he was out there. He gets in a little skirmish 3 minutes into the game of a preseason game. Yeah. That doesn't matter.
Right.
And he gets in a skirmish. He's benched the rest of the game.
Okay.
And there were some other late hits that Aaron Glenn is like pulling them down by the face mask and like yelling at them. And
wow.
So the accountability for players, we're very excited about that in New York Jets land.
Okay.
Because that did not happen under a previous regime administration.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that turns out. Let's talk about your Mets.
It's been a bad week. Been a real bad week.
Am I correct in understanding they got swept by the Guardians?
And the Brewers.
Okay.
So we have lost 9 of 10.
Because Nate in Ohio, I believe, pointed that out in a text to the two of us.
Really? I missed that.
A little selective screening of texts there. Okay, so what's going on? Why have they lost 9 of 10?
It's hard to say. I think there's some bad luck in there. There's some offensive ineptitude that has taken place. They'll get hot for a game, and then no one will hit the next. And then there's been, we were up 5-0 in the game yesterday, and we ended up losing the game with a little bit of a bullpen implosion from some of our very good relief pitchers. So like Edwin Diaz had given up 1 run since June 1st. Gave up 2 runs yesterday.
Okay.
So I think there's a little bit of bad luck.
All right.
I think there's they don't have it right now, if that makes sense, and they need some it.
Some mojo.
Yeah, they're missing a little mojo, and then I would say they aren't getting much from their starting pitching. They're going 4 innings, 5 innings, and we have 1 guy that's going 6 innings, and your bullpen's taxed at that point.
Yep. At
this point, bullpen arms are coming in tired. They're giving up hits. They're giving up runs. So, yeah, I think that's probably that's my diagnosis.
Okay.
So it's been a rough week and a half.
So how far back in the NL East are they then?
3.5 games.
That's not. I mean,
it's not insurmountable with a month, with over a month to go.
Oh yeah, we're still 6 weeks of baseball left at this point.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if they continue this,
yeah, they got to get it turned around. But.
Yeah, they've got to turn the ship around, but they got too much talent to not turn it around. But we'll see.
Okay. Interesting. Man, the baseball season is so long.
It's fun, isn't it?
It's so long. Oh gosh, so long. But I'm excited football's back.
Yeah, football is back.
I mean, we don't have real games yet. But
when does the college season start?
Well, they have what they call Week 0, which is a few games like August 23rd. But the real start is August 30th, that weekend.
Okay, so end of the month.
So August 30th, and that's actually Labor Day weekend.
Yep.
And so there's good games on Saturday, Sunday, and Monday of that weekend.
Nice.
So headlined by Ohio State, Texas, which in the according to the AP poll, that is number 1 against number 3. Texas being 1, Ohio State being 3.
Yep.
And in the coaches poll, it is 1 versus 2.
Yep.
Which means nothing because those polls are irrelevant. They're just
and somebody will win that and drop to 6 or 7, right?
Yeah, I mean maybe. It depends on the nature of the game.
Yeah, it depends how big of a win, how big.
But again,
of a loss.
those rankings literally mean nothing because what matters is the playoff rankings, which don't come out till like the last week of October.
Yep.
So anyway, So I think that Ohio State Texas game will be interesting because both teams lost a good number of players, and I think it'll probably be a low scoring, more of a defensive battle, like a 17-14 kind of game, not a 31-27 kind of game. I think both have more coming back on the defensive side of the ball, but we'll see. I think Texas only has 3 returning starters on offense, but they have a quarterback who has experience from last year a little bit and is obviously highly touted.
Sure. And
his last name is Manning, so everyone's falling over backwards about how great he is. And he's pretty good, but we'll see. And Ohio State has a good number of returning starters on offense, but not their quarterback. So
it feels like an evergreen conversation with Ohio State. Like, well, they have a quarterback competition and they have 3 guys that could fill it, or 2 or 3 guys that could fill it. It feels like we have that conversation every year.
Yes, and by the time we record our next episode, they should have announced who will win.
Okay.
Who the starter is for Week 1.
Okay.
Which I think it'll probably be Julian Sayin, who is a transfer from Alabama.
Okay. You're on the record.
That's my guess, but we'll see. We shall see. I did not watch any of this, but I suppose this is something to briefly mention. The FedEx Cup kind of coming down to the wire, starting that process.
Sure.
I don't fully understand how that works, but basically
they get a certain number of points depending on their placement.
A series of tournaments that are kind of like a playoff system, and you earn points based on where you place in that tournament. So, I guess I looked at the standings. I don't quite fully understand how the points. Like Scotty Scheffler's way out in front, by a mile. But I also don't know
how many points did they get for being in Happy Gilmore.
That's a good question. But it's fun to see football back on the horizon here. And I always have this love-hate relationship with. I really like when football is back, but that means the start of the school year. The end of the summer it's
upon us.
Is nigh.
Yeah.
So, but in any case, all right, John. Let's move on to our main topic for today. My tentative working title for this is Genetic Testing in a Brave New World.
Yeah, I saw that. I thought it was an apt description.
Okay.
And we can get into why Brave New World works so well.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was your idea.
I listened to the podcast and went, this must be a conversation.
Okay. So why don't you start us off? What is this? What are we talking about? And we'll go from there.
Okay. So this is a New York Times podcast with Ross Douthat, who is a conservative Catholic.
Yes.
Writes for National Review, has his column at the Times. I think he's probably top 3 most hated person that works at the Times because he's a conservative.
Could be.
And he kind of relishes that role.
Yeah.
And they keep putting him on podcasts, and he's such a good writer, and he's such a good conversationalist.
Yeah.
And kind of, I don't mean this in a pejorative sense, but an arguer, right? He makes good arguments.
But in a seemingly unflappable way.
Yes. That I think they put him on with some of these other Times columnists, and they just get frustrated with him and they don't want to work with him anymore. And so now they've sort of given him his own lane called Interesting Times, and he hosts some fascinating conversations. It is always a don't miss podcast for me, just to hear who he's going to talk to and what they're going to talk about. So this week he talked to the CEO of Orchid. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the name. Do you want to try to pronounce that?
Isn't it something like Noor Siddiqui or something like this?
Sure.
Siddiqui, something like that. Siddiqui, something like that. Orchid, by the way, is spelled O-R-C-I-D, so not exactly like the flower. And I'm guessing that's some sort of acronym for something.
Stands for something.
Yeah.
Basically,
that's the company that this person founded.
Yes.
Well, or at least she's the CEO. I guess I don't know if she technically founded it.
I don't know.
But
basically, this company takes embryos and tests them for their DNA. And they can tell you all sorts of things based on the DNA. And so you can have, in vitro fertilization, IVF, and they can look at the embryos and tell you all what sort of genetic problems they'll have, whether they'll be male or female, what's their propensity for heart disease, what's their propensity for fill in the blank.
Right.
Schizophrenia was one that they talked about.
It's something like 1,200 different medical conditions.
Yes.
That they have come up with this proprietary algorithm to figure out the risk. So for example, if you have a normal risk of, let's say, heart disease, they claim, figure out based on the embryo's DNA, this embryo is 5 times more likely to get heart disease.
Yes. So they do that.
Yeah.
And the first third of the conversation is probably Ross just sort of level setting, just being like, all right, what is your company? What does it do?
Yeah.
Tell us about the different types of tests it does, and sort of walks through. 'Cause at some point in the first third of the conversation, I'm like a little frustrated. Like, why aren't you asking like moral questions?
Yeah.
But he does get to that.
Yep.
In this second half of the podcast.
Yep.
So,
and we'll include a link in the show notes for you to listen to it.
So I listened to this podcast and I went, Matt Harmon must hear this, and thought to myself, this might get Matt hot under the collar. So Matt, we've talked a little bit about this before airing, but what big picture takeaways? What did you listen to? What did you hear? What were you okay with? What didn't you like? Start really anywhere.
Well, I think Douthat does a good job of trying to lay the groundwork, like you said, for that first half of things. It just in terms of establishing the science of what is it you're doing and how does it work and that kind of thing. Before he did push back a little bit on some of the how do you know this? Like, in other words, how do you verify this? Because you're projecting out, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years out from a DNA strand. And I thought that was good. And I think,
I think there's reason to be skeptical of those things.
I agree.
I don't think that's where we need to spend the majority of our time because neither
agree.
you nor I are genetic scientists of any kind.
Well, I mean, in my spare time a little bit, but no, I think that's that was interesting to me.
So one of the things that struck me about that section was a little bit of lack of individual agency kind of came up in the midst of that conversation. And I don't think Ross pushed back, Douthit pushed back on it very much. But my thinking was like, so you're saying everything is fixed.
Exactly.
Right? You're saying that like, oh, you have a propensity to schizophrenia. Therefore, we should discard an embryo.
Yes.
Or, I mean, that's really where this goes, and that's the moral side. But you're saying your family has a propensity for heart disease.
Right.
So go for a jog, right? I mean, there are steps and actions you can take to reduce those things.
Yeah, I mean, there is a level of genetic determinism that basically drives what this company is selling you.
Yes.
And it does not seem to account for any other factors that contribute to or lead to many of these. Now, some of these are actually genetic issues, right?
Yeah.
So that it is something that can't be addressed with lifestyle change, diet change.
Sure.
There are those things.
Absolutely. Hair color, eye color, right? You can't just – I mean, I guess you throw a contact lens. I guess you can color your hair. But at its root, you can't change it.
Yes. And man, I there is one of the things that first came to mind as I'm listening to this is there's a segment of our population, of our culture, I don't know how large it is, that really believes that technology is our savior.
Yes.
That if we just put enough time, energy, and resources, we can create some kind of technology to fix just about anything, basically anything and everything.
Yeah, I mean there is a group of Silicon Valley, and I've heard a couple of podcasts about this topic, but basically going, we think we can cure death through technology. We can basically cure death. Now, I consider myself a techno optimist. Like I'm optimistic about the role technology can have in our lives. I do not think it is going to cure death.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. But that was one of the first things that struck me is the sort of the combination of genetic determinism plus idolatry of technology that basically says, this if we just put enough time, energy, resources, and effort into it, we can solve anything. And this is probably somewhat fresh in my mind just because of my own recent experiences with my eye. And asking my eye doctor multiple times different questions like, well, why did that happen? Or what causes that? Or what contribute? I don't know. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know. There's still lots about the eye we don't know. Like the eye's been studied for how many years? And it's incredibly intricate and complex. And that was not a knock. It's just like I think there's just this arrogance among some that's like, oh, well, if we just spend enough time and enough energy, we will eventually crack the code on everything.
Now, I think interesting you mention eye, because I think that's an interesting segue to the moral side of this, or to the – not that we haven't been talking moral, but to the where Douthit does a really good job of digging into her past and talking about why she wanted to get into this was her mom had a genetic disease.
Yes.
I believe they categorized it as a disease that caused her to begin to go blind at like age 35.
Yes.
And he sets this up early in the conversation by allowing her to express this, and then turns it late in the conversation and goes, so you're saying that people with this genetic disease, parents should be able to choose out of having children with this genetic disease. Do you wish that your mom was her parents had this opportunity and didn't choose her and chose to remove that embryo from the opportunity of life?
Yeah.
And that was an incredibly gripping question.
Yeah.
And eventually she says, yes, I wish they had the opportunity. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I will say it was fascinating to me to see her, as Douthat pressed on the moral issues.
She became squirmish.
Oh, yeah. And she was thinking like a PR person, a business person, not an ethicist.
Yeah.
And so, he was pressing on the. I mean, at one point, this CEO shared, well, my husband and I, we have 16 embryos, and someday, we hope to probably have 4 kids. And well, he later comes back and he's talking about, okay, so what is the moral status of those embryos? So if I were to take say a tray of those embryos
and throw them into a
river, what kind of crime have I committed? Have I committed a property crime?
Yep.
Have I committed murder? Like what kind of crime have I committed? And she would not answer that question. She would not. She just would not. She would backtrack to, well, I think embryos are amazing. They're miraculous. Like she's even using semi-supernatural terminology points. And she just would not circle back to what is the moral status of that. Mm-hmm. And from another angle, it was fascinating that Douthat tried to push on the whole issue of, okay, so you realize what's going to happen with this. People have these embryos, and they are going to select the ones they want, and they're going to discard the ones that they don't, or that don't line up to whatever genetic preferences they want, whether it's related to disease or even eventually related to potential for athleticism or intelligence or whatever else it might be.
Height, sex, certainly. Sex was like a given in that conversation that they could select for that.
And so, he tried to press for, are you okay with that? Are you okay with the prospect of large numbers of these embryos just being discarded? Like, are you okay with that? And she wouldn't. She's like, well, I think that's dishonest framing. You can't predict what people are going to do with, not everyone makes the same choice. And then she tried to equate it with, well, I mean, within a woman's body, like if there's an embryo and it doesn't implant, that's been discarded. Like she's trying to equate
the natural process.
Some sort of some sort of, in one sense, biological misfire that has no human agency. Like the mother is not saying, I don't want this. It's just for whatever reason the biology doesn't work the right way and the embryo is it is not implanted. Mm-hmm. Trying to equate that with a man and a woman in a laboratory setting saying, we don't want that. Throw that away. Mm-hmm. That those are essentially the same moral choice, mm-hmm. which takes a level of moral reasoning that is just staggering.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was at that part, but he 3 or 4 times came back to it and said, well, that's dishonest framing.
Yeah.
And one time goes, very dishonest framing. And then she launches into something about the progress of society or something like that. Yeah. And Douthat jumps in and just goes, I think somebody has dishonest framing, but it's not me.
Yeah.
And I think he's right.
Yes.
But
yeah. It was also fascinating to me that in her little fantasy world that she was anticipating, that there would come a day when this would be the norm, the normal way, or the most common way people conceive children.
Yes.
And that, the sort of the old-fashioned way of through sexual intercourse
Mm-hmm.
would still be around, but not very common.
Well, and I believe the tagline of Orchid that they quoted, that she quoted, he was like, I wasn't going to bring this up, but she quoted is, sex is for fun, orchid is for babies. Or
Yes.
something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we get to Brave New World.
Yeah.
I think that's where we get to. So for those of you that have not read Huxley's 1920s, is it 1920s?
Maybe.
Dystopian future.
It's so good.
Yes. The whole book begins at the place that they call the London Hatchery.
Yeah.
And there humans are hatched, not born.
Right.
And humans being born through normal intercourse is seen as awful.
Yes.
Right, disgusting. Even though everybody's having promiscuous sex.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the exact same framing you did here, right? This is Brave New World.
Yeah.
What she is describing is a Brave New World.
Yeah. And I think it's utterly naive to think that will happen. I mean, the modern version of that is what, The Handmaid's Tale? Or no, that's a different premise. I had to read that
I've
way
never,
back.
I've never read or watched
Yeah.
The Handmaid's Tale.
Anyway, this premise that that people will simply decide, well, to have a baby, we'll just, have that done in a laboratory as opposed to through the natural process. Just seems impossible. Not even just on a conceptual level, but even on a financial level.
Yeah.
And they get into this a little bit because one of the questions I had is, he tried to push back in terms of could women be pressured to get this kind of testing? Because insurance companies, and she even kind of made this point, we spend all this money at the end of life care for these, for the last month of people's lives to make them comfortable. And, gosh, couldn't that be used if we could anticipate and prevent?
Yeah, it's an argument for euthanasia at some level. Yeah.
And it's like, oh my gosh. Well, what happens when that gets weaponized in one sense by an insurance company? It's like,
yep.
No, you have to get that. You have to get some kind of testing that tells us this. And if you don't, we won't cover the birth of the baby. Or worse, if that child or person eventually has one of these conditions that could have been filtered out or screened out, won't cover it.
Yeah.
Because we shouldn't have to, because it could have been prevented by not having this person born in the first place.
I will say it was more so. It was both expensive and cheaper than I thought it would be.
The $2,500 per
embryo.
Yeah.
Per test.
Okay, but first of all, it's premised on basically on IVF producing the embryo, right?
Correct.
So then there's the expense of the IVF
before
this.
Very, very expensive.
Exactly. And
painful. I think she
undersold
the pain. There's a podcast series called The Retrievals that's pretty devastating for how women have to go through to harvest eggs. Mm-hmm. And in that situation at Yale, one of the nurses was stealing fentanyl, and therefore these women were being told they're given fentanyl when they were getting saline. And so I just spoiled the whole podcast. But how many days they were laid up after this treatment, and she undersold how painful this is.
But this idea that, well, sure, $2,500 per, but then she had said, well, we had 16 embryos. Well, 2,500 times 16.
I can't do that math in my head. I have to bust out the calculator here.
That is $400,000, is it not? No, 40,000. 40,000. 40,000. Yeah. 40,000.
That's a lot of money. Well, and that's
in addition to what you've already spent on the
and
IVF.
that's similar to IVF costs. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
You're talking almost $100K in.
yeah. And I just on the economics of it, I'm not as sold. Now, I do think she makes a point that you could see this becoming more common among the wealthy who want to ensure that their children have certain characteristics. I could, and they have the means that they're able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was a fascinating discussion for sure. What did you make? So at the end, and this is a reflection of his Catholic views, and this isn't something that I think we as Protestants would really disagree with per se, but he basically tried to press her on if that were to happen. If 90% of children were conceived in a laboratory, aren't we worse off because what's happened is you've severed the connection between sex and procreation, and that there's something lost when that link is broken. And she makes the point of like, well, yeah, I mean, kind of. I think maybe it was in that context. Maybe it had already come up before, where that tagline comes up of like, well, people are still going to have sex. I mean, it's fun, it's enjoyable, it's bonding, and But and in that sense, this is downstream from arguments that Catholics have been making for 60 years, 70 years.
Yeah.
About birth control, about when you sever the link between sex and procreation, all sorts of things happen. And I'm not saying I buy all of that set of arguments, and I'm not saying I'm anti-birth control. But it is interesting that God made that process. And again, you can trot out the exceptions. Yes, of course, there are conditions that make it impossible for certain men and women to have a child that way. Okay. And I think it's fine to say, praise God, that there are technologies out there that when used within biblical and ethical guidelines can be a good thing.
Absolutely.
But I just think it was fascinating. He also mentioned at one segment in there, he kind of mentions in passing, well, my views on abortion are not within probably the mainstream of our culture, which they're definitely not within the mainstream of his colleagues at the New York Times. But I think that's maybe a bit of an overstatement. I think there's a substantial portion of our population that would be on board with where he's at in terms of, unless he's saying,
I think it's like a 60-40 debate at this point in American polling. That's my sense. I think he's saying he's in the 40.
Yeah.
But a substantial number.
Right. But he kind of framed it almost as like, well, I'm almost
like it's
in
an 80-20.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hear you.
So, but
yeah, I think he's onto something about sex being severed from procreation.
Yeah. I also think that, this is yet another attempt for humanity to try to play God. Like, you think about, Psalm 139 and, being fearfully and wonderfully made, and you knit me together in the womb, and all that kind of language. It just feels very godlike, what you're saying.
And at least in Orchid's scenario, for now, it still requires a mother's womb.
Yeah, that the embryo still has to be implanted in a mother's womb, yes.
I think that's probably the next logical step, right?
to create artificial wombs that can.
Yeah. Don't you think so? Don't like.
I'm sure that's already. I'm sure the research and development is already working overtime on that. Mm-hmm. If we live in a world where did you see this? That I can't remember. I think it's Bill Gates is involved in a company apparently that is making synthetic butter. That's basically just carbon that's been manipulated and then just given butter flavor, but it's not actually anything remotely resembling butter. It looks like butter and apparently sort of tastes like butter, but
Interesting.
Yeah. What a world we live in. What a world.
All right. I think it's time to move on.
All right. I agree. Time now for this day in sports history.
All right. This day in sports history, August the 12th, 2025. August 12th. 1936 on this day, American diver Marjorie Gestring
Yeah, probably.
wins the 3-meter springboard gold at the Berlin Olympics. Becomes the youngest Olympic gold medalist at 13 years, 260 days old.
Yeah. That's impressive.
Still stand? Probably.
I think so.
Feels like there's got to be a Chinese gymnast who has taken over that.
Maybe.
Of course, they always age them up, right? And that's sort of the accusation of the Chinese. Not wanting to comment on.
I have no comment on that.
On the People's Republic of China. Okay. 1948, Indian maestro Balbir Singh Dosanjh. How'd I do?
I think it's pretty good.
Scores twice as India beats Great Britain 4-0 for the field hockey gold medal at the London Olympics. India's fourth consecutive Olympic hockey title.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
1978, NFL New England Patriots. Oh, boy. Wide receiver Darryl Stingley suffered a spinal cord injury, leaves him as a quadriplegic after a hit by Oakland Raiders Jack Tatum in a preseason exhibition game.
Yep.
Yikes. 1990, longest baseball rain delay in MLB history is the Texas Rangers and the Chicago White Sox. Wait 7 hours and 23 minutes to play a game at Kissimmee Park in Chicago. Kissimmee. What is that? Oh, that's by Orlando. Comiskey Park in Chicago until the game is eventually postponed.
Yeah.
Those
Imagine
poor
waiting
guys.
that long and then let's call it.
Yeah. 1994, members of the Major League Baseball Players Association go on strike, leading to the cancellation of the World Series for only the second time in MLB history, also in 1904, due to a labor dispute.
Yeah. I mean, the folks in Cleveland are especially salty about that because they had a
they had a very good team that year.
Great team that year.
2016 Hungarian swimmer Katinka Hazu wins her fourth medal at the Rio de Janeiro Olympics, finishing second in the women's 200-meter backstroke. Gold goes to American Maya Dorado.
Okay. Do you remember that that was the Olympics where there were all these concerns about the water quality of the pool? Do you remember that?
I remember more the heat and the soccer teams playing outside, and they were very nervous about the players in the jungles out in Rio, playing. That's what I remember. I don't remember the water quality.
Yeah.
I remember, oh goodness, who was the famous American swimmer that got in trouble? Ryan.
Was it Lockley?
Ryan Lockley, left the country all of a sudden, got in trouble.
Yeah, there was some weird stuff.
There was something weird happened. Yeah. I don't remember the details, but.
Yeah. All right. Well, out of this list, who do you like? I mean, I'm guessing you're not going with Indian maestro Balbir Singh Dosanjh.
Probably not.
Okay.
How about Marjorie Gestring?
Okay. I can get on board with that. I mean, she's not even 14 years old, and she wins an Olympic medal. That's impressive.
And I assume you think she's passed away at this point? Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if she was...
She's born in 1923?
Yeah.
She's passed away. Most likely.
Realistically, the actuary tables would tell you.
Well, rest in peace, Marjorie.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. She probably has a different last name. I mean, most likely she got married.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe some of the Gestring family is actually listening and they can let us know.
That
what
would be
happened
wild.
Yeah.
That would truly be a small world.
There you go. One thing you liked.
My wife and I went to Costco the other day, and we planned to arrive an hour before it closed. We arrived 5 minutes before it closed, which I learned is the greatest time to go to Costco.
Okay.
You walk in, they say, hey, we won't let anybody else in for 5 minutes. I'm like, but I can finish shopping? I said, absolutely. And it was a ghost town. It was wonderful. No fighting the crowds, no lines, no dodging people through aisles. Going to Costco 5 minutes before it closed, 10 out of 10 recommend.
You've officially become a middle-aged white man. Welcome
It's good.
aboard.
It's good to be here.
Welcome aboard. Yeah. So I'm going to go with playing a little pickleball.
Speaking of middle-aged white men.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So because of my eye issues, I had been limited in my activity. And last Thursday, I was cleared to resume normal activity. And so I got to play some pickleball on Friday night with my lovely wife. And went to the YMCA for it's kind of like an open gym for pickleball. And yeah, had a lot of fun. It was good to play again. And after knocking the rust off in the first game, I felt like I played pretty well.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that is my one thing I liked. All right, John, we have talked about you throwing out your back while playing golf.
Yep.
We talked about preseason football for the NFL. We talked about genetic testing in a brave new world. We talked about Marjorie Gestring winning Olympic gold at 13 years old. We talked about going to Costco 5 minutes before the close.
Only time to go.
And we talked about me playing a little pickleball. So I think, by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. And so all that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless y'all real good.
Later.